Adventure riding is awesome, but also terrifying. You're out there on your own, doing your own thing, and yet somehow the universe always seems to find a way to help you. Let's talk about 5 things that nobody tells you about adventure riding. Before we jump in, I just want to say thanks to Break Free for sponsoring this video. For the purposes of this video, adventure riding equals on and off-road motorcycle riding, maybe with some camping thrown in there, often on a multi-day trip, okay? We don't need to spend hours debating the nuances of dual sport versus adventure riding when we all pretty much do the same thing. So the first thing nobody tells you about adventure riding is that adventure bikes are not just motorcycles. When you get to camp, your adventure bike transforms into a clothing rack, a food prep station, a dining room table. It turns into a chair, and even sometimes an essential component of your shelter. It's always astounded me how quickly my bike goes from carefully loaded and secured luggage with every item's placement carefully considered to full-on gear explosion immediately after stopping in camp with zero rhyme or reason at all. The second we get to camp, we start pulling stuff out of bags and stacking it on our bikes, and all of our careful organization and planning goes right out the window almost immediately. This is less prevalent where there's a picnic table, although in my experience, the mess just moves from your bike to the picnic table and you're still hanging stuff on your bike. But when I'm dispersed camping, my bike goes from travel mode to buried under a mountain of stuff in the blink of an eye, and I spend the rest of the evening and next morning moving stuff to get to stuff or throwing stuff on the ground so I can use the elevated surfaces to prepare food or make coffee or whatever else I need to do, hang my gear, anything like that. Then somehow, through some magic in the morning, it all gets carefully tucked back away in the space of half an hour. The next thing you know, you're swinging your leg over an incredibly well-packed and carefully organized machine with everything strapped down exactly where it needs to be without the possibility of movement or rubbing or being melted through on your exhaust. Somehow that giant explosion fits back into your tiny bags and you're back on the trail first thing in the morning. That has always astounded me, and nobody tells you about the gear explosion that happens the second you get to camp. The second thing nobody tells you about adventure riding is that your gear is never really ever going to be secure. We spend a lot of money on camping gear and our bags. It's really unnerving to go into a restaurant or a hotel and leave thousands of dollars of gear and equipment and bags on our motorcycles unattended with nothing but a thin layer of cordura between your expensive motorcycle camping gear and any would-be thief. I get asked about securing luggage all of the time. I've even made a couple videos about ways that you can do that. New motorcycle travelers are so obsessed with this idea of thieves that they'll carry heavy metal mesh to cover their stuff or run elaborate steel cable setups up, around, and through their bags to make them harder to get into and keep them on the bike. You can go to all this effort if you want to, but the fact of the matter is 95% of your gear is never going to be more than one quick knife swipe away from a would-be thieve's hands. We can take precautions like sitting by windows at restaurants where we can see our bikes and parking our motorcycle setups underneath the entryways of hotels, things like that. But the fact of the matter is you can't watch your stuff all the time, and on a motorcycle, it's just impossible to fully secure everything all of the time. And the best strategy I've found is just to accept that fact and try to relax a little bit and just enjoy the adventure instead. Which leads me to the number 3 thing nobody tells you about adventure riding. Nobody wants to steal your shit. Or at least the chances are extremely rare. Sure, you and I both know that your luggage setup can cost $1,000 and it's easy to have $1,000 worth of camping gear inside that luggage setup. There's a lot of value in a very small package, but your average would-be low-life thief does not know that and is not going to take the time to investigate what they can get for camping gear if they were to steal it off of your bike. And even if they did steal it off of the bike, there is no convenient way to turn an old dusty bike packing tent into cash for a thief. There just isn't. You can't walk into a pawn shop the way you can with a phone or a GPS unit or jewelry. The average thief is looking for targets of opportunity and quick scores. They're not looking to slice through or unhook and unbuckle 1,000 straps to get into your luggage or to get it off your bike and run off with it. Secure your high-value, easy-access items like your GPS and your phone, stuff like that, as much as possible. But the stuff in the bags is generally too much hassle for most thieves of opportunity to bother with. Real professional thieves can make off with your entire bike in 30 seconds flat anyway, so worrying about stopping them is kind of pointless. But you're not really going to run into those types of people because we spend most of our time riding through the middle of nowhere and stopping in towns with 150 people where everyone is related to each other and they all can identify outsiders immediately. If you were in a big city, maybe it would be more of a concern, but generally we're not in places where there's a ton of people walking by to have the opportunity to steal your stuff in the first place. And then the chances of one of those people being a thief who's willing to go through all the hassle is infinitesimally small. Also, and I know this is hard to hear, but we're all about the hard truths here on this channel. Nobody wants your dusty ass old tent and your sweaty, gross underwear that you've been wearing on the bike for 3 weeks. Trust me. Just relax. Theft happens, yes, but it's extremely rare. I have never to this point had anything disappear from my motorcycle that I wasn't personally responsible for losing on any of my trips. Before I jump into the number 4 thing nobody tells you about adventure motorcycle riding, I want to take a minute to say thank you to the sponsor for this video, Brake Free. This is the Brake Free unit. We all know that the most dangerous thing to motorcyclists out there is other drivers, and the best way to mitigate the danger from other drivers is to make yourself as visible as possible. On motorcycles, our brake lights and other lights are low, right? They are below waist level in most cases, and so the best way to become more visible, at least from behind, is to get a brake light up as high as possible, and the highest point for a motorcyclist is, naturally, the back of our helmet. So the Brake Free system is super simple and super easy to use. When I first heard about it, I definitely thought, you're going to have to plug that into an app on your phone, or you're going to have to plug it into the bike or something like that. None of that is necessary. All you do is attach this quick and easy mount to the back of your helmet. Takes about, I don't know, 12 seconds to put on. You charge up your Brake Free unit, which is light, and you barely notice it's on the back of your bike. And this thing will signal to other drivers anytime you slow down or brake because it has an accelerometer. That's how it knows. So it not only gets when you're hitting the brake pedal, like your brake lights, but it will also detect when you're slowing down by downshifting or whatever, causing an immediate, incredibly visible notification to any drivers that are behind you. This thing can literally save your life. It is inexpensive. It works great. The battery lasts forever. I just took it on a 4-day Oregon BDR trip and didn't have to charge it at all. Easy to use. Slap it on the back of your helmet, and with promo code DORK in the road, you can save 10 bucks. You can't put a price on safety, but man, this is the best investment you can make. It's not crazy expensive, and it's even cheaper if you use the promo code. So thanks to Brake Free for sponsoring this video and for keeping us safe out there on the road. The number 4 thing nobody tells you about adventure riding is a little bit of a personal confession and kind of a hard truth, but I think anyone that's spent much time out there, particularly on their own, can relate to it. The fear never really goes away. I'm afraid pretty much every time I ride my motorcycle. Afraid of riding a tough section, afraid of camping alone, afraid of getting hurt out there on my own, afraid of the bike breaking down and not being able to fix it, afraid of heat stroke when I have to change a tire in the desert, and the list goes on and on and on, afraid of other drivers on the road. I've experienced enough bad things, seen 3 broken legs to this point, that I have a healthy fear of what could happen when you're out there in the wilderness. The fear changes and evolves over the years. I'm no longer afraid of certain things that used to scare me, like certain types of terrain, hill climbs, scary descents, loose terrain, stuff like that doesn't scare me as much as my skills have improved, but I'm not afraid, and I don't think I ever will be. At least I hope I never will be. Fear is good on some level. It helps you prepare. It helps you remember to bring your toolkit, your inReach, and your first aid kit, and reminds you to maintain your bike and stay hydrated while you're out there. But if you're scared of things while doing this adventure riding thing, that's normal. Not being afraid would be arrogant. It's the people who think they're invincible and have it all figured out that end up hurt. I'm going to use a stereotype for a minute, but it's based on experience, meeting many of you out there in the world. Most of us are not young. Many of us have families and other people who depend on us, and we can't afford to get hurt and not be able to work and support and take care of those families for extended periods of time. We have people who depend on us, and the fear keeps us safer most of the time. Fear can also be irrational and stupid, so be realistic. If I gave into fear and hesitation every time, I would never get out and ride. You have to push past discomfort to get to adventure and enjoyment, and to grow and increase your skills as a rider, but make sure you're prepared for the inevitable bit of bad luck so you can enjoy the rest of your time out there. However, if you're scared like me when you go out, I have some great news for you, and that brings us to the number 5 thing nobody tells you about adventure motorcycle riding. Help always just seems to appear when you need it. Somehow it just does. Here's some examples. On the Oregon BDR run, I was on my 450L. I had added a bigger tank, but it was only 3 gallons. Section 1 of the Oregon BDR is 170 miles, so I was running on fumes by the time we got to Plush. We get to Plush, is the end of Section 1. It is 100 degrees outside and their gas pump is overheated. They cannot pump gas. The closest gas station to that is Adele. It is about 15, 20 miles south. Also out of gas, the people in Plush told us. So I'm really concerned, butt puckery, because we have to go all the way to Lakeview to get gas, and I'm not sure I'm gonna make it on what I have in my tank. Suddenly, an overlanding rig pulls up and hears us talking about how we may not have enough gas to get there. And he's like, oh, well, I got 5 gallons on the back of my truck, and just gives us gas to fill up our tanks so that we can conveniently get to Lakeview. Out of nowhere, like, we didn't even ask. It never even occurred to me to ask someone. Help just appeared. The guy gave me gas and I was on my way. Another example, on day 3, I think, of our Northern California BDR run, we get to camp and Ian discovers that his sleeping pad is ripped, totally deflated. So he spends an uncomfortable night on the ground, and we're trying to make plans to kind of divert into a bigger city to try to find a place to buy a sleeping pad for him, when his buddy, who was coming to ride for us for the day, rolls into camp with fully packed bags. He wasn't planning on camping with us, but he had filled his panniers with camping gear just so that it would look better in pictures, I guess, but he has not 1 but 2 sleeping pads in those bags. We didn't ask him to bring a sleeping pad. There is no way he could have known we needed a sleeping pad, but he rolls up with 2, gives 1 to Ian. We're good to go for the rest of the trip. I don't know if you guys watch T-Dub's Kid, but there's a video of his where he goes out for his first ride on his new Triumph 400 Scrambler, drops it, the immobilizer gets damaged, and he can't start the bike. He was just out there for a quick evening ride. It's starting to get dark. He can't get the bike going. He's facing the prospect of hiking out of the woods or spending the night up there with no gear, when suddenly a truck drives by. 2 guys who are incredibly helpful. They help him load the bike in the back of his truck and give him a ride home. He didn't call for help. Those people didn't know he was going to be there. They just happened to cross and helped him when he needed it most. One time I was driving in the woods in my truck after we'd been riding. I had 2 bikes in the back, got a flat tire. I get out all of my tire changing stuff, and a truck drives by. It's a Sunday, by the way. It just happens to be 2 guys that work for a logging company that are on their way down from fixing a piece of equipment, and they have impact wrenches and everything, and it was the fastest tire change of my life. They just came by at the exact right time. Another example, sorry, I just have a ton of these, but we're at my camp out the first year, and there's a guy there on a 1090. His fuel pump goes out. I asked him to ask if anyone else had a fuel pump. He thought I was being a dick. I wasn't, because I just know that KTM riders carry fuel pumps. This was the weekend, so the shops were closed, and there's nothing really close to Sisters. But he jumps in the Central Oregon Adventure Riders group, and somebody had a fuel pump for him and gave it to him, and he was riding the bike again the next day. My experience, my years of time doing this adventure riding thing are full of examples like that. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but I am saying it sure seems to happen a lot. When you need help, the universe just delivers it. Other members of the community just appear and help you out. And members of the adventuring community, whether that is overlanders, adventure riders, all of us understand what it means to be stuck out there, to need help when you're far from civilization. So most of us are very willing to help when the time comes, give people the shirt off our back if necessary to get them out of the woods and get them out of a bad situation. We ride on routes like the BDRs, and there's a lot of traffic on those routes, and there's just, for some reason, always seems to be somebody coming along when you need them. You can't anticipate every single bad situation that can occur, but I have just seen countless examples of help arriving at the exact right time. And it's something that I've heard a ton of stories from other people about too. It's just a thing that happens. Nobody tells you that before you get in, but just know if you get into a bad situation, help may just be around the corner. You just didn't know it was coming. Would you mind sharing stories of times when you were out and needed help and it just appeared in the comments? I think it would be great to inspire particularly the newer riders, the people that are thinking about getting into adventure riding, with some of these stories about how we always help each other out. And so will be maybe a little calmer if something bad happens, and or more willing to help out should they come across someone who needs it. That'd be a great thing to share in the comments. I want to say thanks again to Break Free for sponsoring this video. I will put a link in the description so you can check out a Break Free, get one for yourself, and use that promo code DORK in the road to save 10 bucks. Let us know in the comments what other things you have discovered over your time in the adventure riding community that nobody tells you about. Make sure you're subscribed for more adventure motorcycling, dual sport motorcycling tips, tricks, trips, and other content. And thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!